There are moments in life when we ask, why did I have to go through this? Why did I have to love someone who only took from me? Why did God allow me to cross paths with a person who drained my energy, tested my faith, and left me questioning my worth? But let me tell you something. God does not place you in situations without purpose. You were not sent into the narcissist's life by accident. You were not caught in a storm by mistake. You were positioned, you were assigned, and you were placed there for a reason. Sometimes God places you in someone's life not for your comfort, but for their awakening. You are not sent there just to love them, to support them, or to be a passive presence in their story. You were sent as a mirror, a reflection of something they have long refused to see within themselves. Narcissists build a world of illusion, a world where they are always right, where they are always in control, and where their actions have no consequences. But when you stepped into their life, you disrupted that illusion. You see, a narcissist thrives on deception, but truth has a way of making itself known. No matter how much they manipulate, no matter how much they twist reality to fit their desires, when someone with a pure heart, a genuine spirit, and a strong presence enters their life, cracks begin to form in their carefully constructed facade. Your presence alone was a confrontation. It was a reflection of everything they had ignored, everything they had buried, and everything they had refused to deal with. At first, they may have admired you. They may have been drawn to your light, to your strength, to the depth of your emotions. But soon they realized that your presence challenged them in ways they were not prepared for. You asked questions they did not want to answer. You expected accountability they were not willing to give. You loved them in a way that required honesty, vulnerability, and reciprocity. Things they had never truly learned to give. A mirror does not lie. It reflects both the beauty and the flaws. And that is why the narcissist resisted you, because when they looked at you, they saw not only what they wanted to see, but also what they had been trying to avoid. The way you loved exposed the way they had never learned to love. The way you forgave revealed the way they had never truly faced their own wrongdoings. The way you stood strong in your truth highlighted the weakness in their foundation. They may have tried to shift the blame onto you. They may have accused you of being too sensitive, too emotional, too demanding. But the truth is, it was never about you being too much. It was about them being unwilling to grow. They fought against the reflection you showed them, not because it was false, but because it was painfully true. Your presence in their life was an opportunity for them to change, to grow, to break free from the toxic patterns that had kept them trapped for so long. But change requires humility, and growth requires surrender. And a narcissist, unless they are willing to do the inner work, will choose pride over transformation. Instead of embracing the lesson, they will resist it. Instead of acknowledging the truth, they will deny it. And when that happens, the only thing left for you to do is to walk away. But do not think for a moment that your presence had no impact. A seed was planted. Whether they acknowledge it today, years from now, or never at all, your presence forced them to see themselves in a way they never had before. You were not sent into their life to fix them. That was never your responsibility. But you were sent to show them something different, something real, something that could have led to transformation if only they had been ready to receive it. And maybe, just maybe, one day they will. Maybe one day, long after you have moved on, after you have healed, after you have found the love and peace you deserve, they will look back and realize that you were the one person who truly saw them, that you were the one person who challenged them to be better, that you were the one person who loved them, not for what they pretended to be, but for who they could have been. But whether they change or not is no longer your concern. Your assignment in their life was not to stay, not to break yourself trying to fix what they refused to heal. Your assignment was to be a mirror, to reflect truth, to bring light, to show them something they had never seen before. And once that assignment was complete, your role was to step away and continue walking in your own purpose. Because the greatest lesson of all is this: you were never just there for them. You were there for yourself too. To learn, to grow, to recognize your worth, and to understand that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away, knowing that you fulfilled your purpose. When God places you in the life of someone who may not be able to recognize your value, especially someone like a narcissist, it's crucial to understand that your role was never meant to be permanent. You were sent as a lesson, not to remain in a toxic cycle, but to catalyze growth, transformation, and ultimately liberation. There are seasons in life when we are chosen to walk alongside others, to show them something they may not be able to see themselves. But the key here is that you were never supposed to stay in a situation that was draining your energy, your spirit, or your peace. The purpose of your time with that person wasn't to fix them or to accept the abuse, but to learn, to grow, and ultimately to move forward with a new sense of self and a deeper understanding of your own worth. Many people make the mistake of thinking that once a relationship is in place, it must last forever, that their role is to sustain and endure for the sake of the connection. But God has a different plan. Sometimes your assignment is to introduce a lesson into someone's life, not to stay and carry the weight of their transformation. You were placed in that person's life not to stay forever, but to shine a light on the areas where they need healing, and at the same time, to guide yourself towards a path of strength, self-awareness, and purpose. It's important to recognize that sometimes the lesson isn't just for the other person, but for you as well. The pain that you feel from having to walk away from someone you love isn't a punishment. It's a sign of growth. You were never meant to sacrifice your happiness, peace, or self-worth for the sake of another person's dysfunction. Walking away from that relationship doesn't mean you failed or that you didn't give enough. It means that you did exactly what you were called to do in that moment. You set boundaries, you recognized your own value, and you took steps to protect your heart. It is in these moments of painful separation that we often learn the most about ourselves, about what we will and won't tolerate, and about what we truly deserve. You were not sent into their life to be their emotional caretaker or their savior. Sometimes people can't or won't change. That's not a reflection of you or your worth, but a reflection of their own struggles, limitations, and unwillingness to grow. What you offered was love, patience, and understanding. But when those things are not reciprocated or respected, you are not called to keep giving endlessly. The lesson here is about balance. Loving others is essential, but not at the cost of losing yourself. There's a beauty in realizing that you have the power to walk away. It takes strength, takes courage, and it takes a deep understanding that your value is not dependent on someone else's approval or emotional state. Leaving a relationship, especially one that has emotionally drained you, is not an act of failure, but an act of self. You were sent to be the catalyst for change, to show them what real love and respect look like, and to lead by example, showing them that the love they sought must start from within themselves. The experience of being placed in someone's life to teach them a lesson is not about you becoming the martyr. It's about you learning your own strength, your own boundaries, and your own worth. As you walk away from a narcissist or any toxic person, you will begin to see the ways in which this experience has shaped you. You'll find clarity, wisdom, and self-assurance in ways that would have been impossible if you had stayed in that same place. Enduring emotional turmoil. The lesson is clear. You don't have to accept less than you deserve to prove that you love someone. You were sent to teach them that real love comes with respect, understanding, and mutual care. And when that wasn't reciprocated, you did the hardest thing, you walked away. The love you offered in that relationship was never wasted. It might have been unappreciated or misunderstood, but it was never in vain. What you learned during your time with that person becomes the foundation for your growth. You begin to understand yourself on a deeper level, your needs, your desires, and your purpose. Sometimes stepping away from a toxic relationship is the key to unlocking the life you are truly meant to lead. It gives you the clarity to move forward, not in bitterness or regret, but with peace and strength. The lesson for both you and the narcissist has been set in motion. You may not see it right away, but one day you will look back and understand why you had to let go. You were never meant to stay stuck in the storm. You were sent there to spark change, not to endure the chaos. Your healing, your self-worth, and your personal growth are part of a larger plan. God doesn't waste any part of your journey. Your time in that relationship was a stepping stone. A place where you were tested and refined. A place where you discovered your true strength. And as you continue your journey forward, remember, sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that free you to live the life you are truly meant to live. When you were placed in the narcissist's life, you brought something they were not accustomed to. Genuine love, sincerity, and truth. Narcissists operate in a world built on illusion. They craft an image, manipulate perceptions, and create an environment where they are always in control. But when you entered their life, something shifted. You carried light into a place where darkness had been ruling for far too long. This is why your presence disrupted them. The love you gave was not based on conditions or manipulation. It was not something they could twist, control, or turn into a tool for their own gain. The way you cared, the way you forgave, the way you saw the good in them, it was something they were not used to. You were not just another person in their life. You were a reflection of something higher, something deeper. Your presence alone was proof that there is a different way to live, to love, to relate to others. And whether they admitted it or not, they saw it. The reason narcissists resist change is because they fear truth. Truth forces them to confront the reality of who they are. It exposes the selfishness, the manipulation, the insecurity hiding beneath the surface. But when truth enters the room, darkness has no choice but to react. That's why you experience the emotional chaos, the mind games, the sudden shifts in behavior. You were not just another person in their life. You were a challenge to their way of living. But here's what you must understand. Even though they fought against your presence, even though they tried to twist your kindness, even though they may have discarded you or tried to make you feel unworthy, your light still left an impact. Light cannot enter darkness without leaving a trace. Even if they rejected what you brought, even if they refused to change, you may never hear them admit it. They may never say the words. But deep inside, they know you were different. They know that the love you gave was not like the others who came before you. They know that the patience, the forgiveness, the grace you extended was not something they deserved, but something you gave freely. They know that they pushed you away not because you were weak, but because you were strong enough to show them what they had been avoiding their whole life. And even though you were the one who carried the light, even though you brought truth into their life, God did not place you there to stay. He did not ask you to fix them, to heal them, to sacrifice yourself in an attempt to make them whole. He sent you to show them a glimpse of something real, to plant a seed that they may one day recognize. You were never meant to be consumed by their darkness, only to shine in it for a time. What you must realize now is that your light was never meant to be dimmed by someone else's dysfunction. You were not created to lose yourself in trying to save another. You were meant to bring truth, to reflect love, and then to move forward into what God has for you next. The time you spent in that place was not wasted. It was a divine assignment, but every assignment has a completion date. Now, as you walk away, you must understand that your light still shines. It is not dependent on whether they acknowledge it. It is not lessened because they did not change. It remains strong, bright, and powerful, preparing you for the places and people who will truly value what you bring. You were not just in their life by accident. You were sent as a reminder that even in the midst of brokenness, there is still something pure. Even in a world of manipulation, there is still sincerity. Even in the presence of selfishness, there is still selfless love. And while they may never fully grasp what they lost, you must never forget who you are. The light you carried is still with you, and it will guide you into something greater. Growth does not come from comfort. It comes from challenge. If everything in life were easy, there would be no strength, no resilience, and no wisdom gained. The truth is, God allows us to walk through difficult situations, not to break us, but to build us. When you encountered the narcissist, you were stepping into an environment designed to test every part of you. Your patience, your self-worth, your faith, and your emotional endurance. But what you may not have realized at the time was that every moment of pain, every instance of confusion, and every tear you shed was refining you. There are seasons in life where we feel like we are losing, where we question why we had to go through certain experiences. It is natural to ask, why did I have to endure this? Why did I give my heart to someone who only took advantage of it? Why did I try so hard for someone who never saw my worth? But what if the very thing you are trying to erase from your past is the thing God used to shape your future? What if that situation was never meant to destroy you, but to reveal who you really are? Strength is not built in seasons of peace. It is built in the fire of adversity. Every difficult moment with a narcissist was teaching you something. When they manipulated you, it forced you to sharpen your ability to discern. When they made you feel unworthy, it pushed you to find your true value outside of their validation. When they drained you emotionally, it made you realize the importance of protecting your energy and setting boundaries. These are lessons that no amount of advice could have taught you. You had to experience them firsthand. God does not just use victories to develop us. He uses struggles. And sometimes the most painful experiences are the ones that shape us the most. The moment you realized that the narcissist was not capable of loving you in the way you deserved, something in you shifted. You started to see yourself differently. You began to understand that love is not meant to be begged for, that respect is not something you have to earn from someone unwilling to give it. That realization alone was a turning point. At first, it felt like you were being broken down. The emotional exhaustion, the self-doubt, the feelings of rejection. It all seemed unbearable. But the truth is, you were not being broken, you were being rebuilt. You were shedding the parts of yourself that tolerated less than you deserved. You were letting go of the false belief that your love alone could change someone who was never willing to change. You were stepping into a version of yourself that now sees things clearly. And here is the beauty of it all. What once hurt you now empowers you. The wounds have become wisdom. The heartbreak has become strength. The confusion has become clarity. You now move differently. You recognize red flags faster. You know how to guard your heart without shutting it down completely. You have become more aware of the kind of love you are willing to accept. This is growth, and it was born from the very situation that was meant to break you. One of the greatest signs of transformation is when you look back at a painful experience and realize it no longer has power over you. The person who once controlled your emotions no longer affects your peace. The memories that once triggered pain now serve as reminders of how far you have come. The manipulation that once confused you now stands as evidence of how much wiser you have become. This is the work that God was doing all along, turning what was meant for harm into something that strengthened you. So do not regret the experience. Do not waste time wishing it never happened. Instead, stand firm in the knowledge that what you went through had a purpose. The storm was necessary to prepare you for the next level of your life. The pain was necessary to wake you up to your true worth. The challenge was necessary to shape you into someone who no longer settles for less. You are no longer the same person who walked into that situation. You are stronger, wiser, and more prepared for what is coming next. And that alone makes everything you went through worth it. Many people who display narcissistic behavior follow a cycle. They repeat the same patterns with different people, moving from one person to the next, always searching for validation, control, and admiration. They thrive in environments where they can manipulate without consequence, where their actions go unquestioned, and where their behavior is tolerated. This cycle remains unbroken because for most of their lives, they have surrounded themselves with individuals who either enable them, fear them, or remain unaware of their tactics. But then someone like you enters their life, someone different, someone who sees through the illusion, someone who challenges them in ways they never expected. God places certain people in the lives of others, not just to receive something, but to bring change, to be a disruptor, to shake up patterns that have existed for years. When you encountered the narcissist, you may not have realized that you were stepping into a role that was much bigger than yourself. You were not just another person in their life. You were the interruption to a cycle that had been left unchecked for too long. When you entered their world, something shifted. The things they could easily get away with before became harder to sustain. The manipulation that worked on others did not work on you in the same way. They saw in you something they were unfamiliar with. Someone who would not be controlled so easily. Someone who reflected back to them a truth they had long ignored, even if they tried to convince you otherwise. They recognized your strength. They recognized your spirit. And deep down, they knew that you were not like the others. In many ways, your presence was a disruption to their comfort. Narcissists are used to patterns that benefit them. They rely on people who will excuse their behavior, people who will stay silent, people who will always return no matter how much damage has been done. But when you entered their life, something changed. Perhaps for the first time, they encountered someone who was willing to walk away. Perhaps for the first time, they saw a reflection of what true love, patience, and self-respect looked like. Breaking a cycle does not always mean changing another person. It does not always mean that they will suddenly become self-aware, repentant, or transformed. Sometimes breaking the cycle simply means refusing to participate in it. It means recognizing dysfunction and choosing to step out of it. It means setting a boundary that says, I will not allow this behavior in my life. That alone is a powerful disruption. That alone is enough to create a shift. And while they may not acknowledge it, your absence will be felt. The moment you remove yourself from a toxic cycle, the pattern is no longer the same. They may seek to replace you, to find someone else to fill the void, but the truth remains. They encountered something in you that they will not easily find again. Your strength, your wisdom, your unwillingness to conform to their manipulation, that left an imprint. But here's the most important part. Breaking a cycle is not just about them. It is about you. God did not place you in that situation just to teach them a lesson. He also placed you there to learn something about yourself, to realize your own strength, to recognize your own worth, to understand that you are not responsible for fixing others at the expense of your own peace. The greatest victory in breaking a cycle is not in changing another person. It is in refusing to lose yourself in the process. This experience was not without purpose. Every moment of confusion, every time you questioned yourself, every tear you shed, none of it was wasted. You were meant to be there for a reason, but you were never meant to stay. God allowed you to step into that situation, to shake things up, to expose truth where deception thrived, but He also provided you with the strength to walk away. And in doing so, you have not just broken a cycle in their life, you have broken one in your own. You have chosen to rise above what was meant to trap you. You have chosen healing over chaos, self-worth over manipulation, and freedom over control. One day you will look back on this and realize that you were never just another person in their life. You were a shift, a lesson, a reflection of something greater. And while they may never fully understand what they lost, you will walk away knowing exactly what you gained. You will move forward stronger, wiser, and unshaken, carrying the lessons that will guide you toward the relationships and purpose that were meant for you all along. What you went through was not just about the pain, it was about the transformation. When God placed you in the narcissist's life, He already knew how the journey would unfold. He knew the challenges you would face, the heartbreak you would endure, and the lessons you would carry forward. But more importantly, He knew that this experience would shape you into a person with deeper wisdom, greater strength, and a clearer understanding of your worth. At first, the pain seems unbearable. You ask yourself why you had to endure such emotional turmoil, why your love was not enough to change them, why they treated you in ways that made you question your own value. But understand this, God does not waste pain. He allows us to walk through certain experiences, not to destroy us, but to develop us. Growth does not come from comfort. You may not see it immediately, but the very thing that tried to break you is what will elevate you. You see, healing is not just about moving on. It is about stepping into the person you were always meant to be. It is about recognizing that what you went through was never meant to define you, but rather to refine you. The pain you endured was like fire purifying gold, burning away the illusions, the insecurities, and the false beliefs you once held about love and relationships. Through this experience, you learned what real love is, and more importantly, what it is not. There was a time when you believed that love required sacrifice, even at the cost of your own peace. You believed that if you just loved harder, if you just proved yourself more, then they would see your worth. But God allowed you to go through this to show you a deeper truth. Love is not something you have to beg for, chase after, or constantly prove. Love that is real does not manipulate, does not drain, does not break you. And through this experience, you learn that your love is valuable, but it should never come at the cost of yourself. Now, you are walking away with knowledge that many people spend years searching for. You have learned to trust yourself, to set boundaries, to recognize when a relationship is taking more than it is giving. You have learned that walking away is not failure. It is self-respect. And that realization alone is worth everything you went through. But here's the most powerful part. Your healing is not just for you. God will use your testimony to help others who are struggling in the same darkness you once found yourself in. You will encounter people who are confused, broken, and questioning their worth because of a toxic relationship. And you will be the one who reminds them that they are not alone. You will be the one who tells them that healing is possible, that they are stronger than they think, that they deserve more than they have settled for. Your pain will become someone else's survival guide. What you have overcome will equip you to guide others toward their own breakthroughs. And in that moment, you will realize that everything you endured had a greater purpose. The narcissist may have tried to diminish you, but instead, they became the reason you rose into your full power. So do not dwell on what you lost. Instead, focus on what you have gained. You have gained clarity, self-worth, resilience, and a deeper connection with yourself and with God. You have gained the ability to recognize manipulation before it even begins. You have gained a heart that is stronger, a mind that is wiser, and a soul that is unshakable. One day you will look back at this chapter of your life and realize that it was not a tragedy, it was a transformation. You were never just a victim of someone else's brokenness. You were a warrior who walked through fire and came out refined. You were never meant to stay in that place of pain. You were meant to rise from it. And now, as you step into the next season of your life, you carry with you the greatest gift of all: freedom. The freedom to love yourself fully, to embrace relationships that nurture rather than drain you, and to walk boldly in the purpose that God has prepared for you. You are no longer who you were before this experience. You are stronger. You are wiser. You are free. And that is why God placed you in that situation. Not to break you, but to prepare you for something greater.